Okay, if we're trying to write a quadratic function in standard form, what we need to do is basically complete the square for the function that we're given. So for our first one, for g of x, we have negative 2x squared minus 10x minus 11. If I want that to be in standard form, what I need to do is kind of separate out the squared piece and the 10x from the 11, and then see if we can do some work to pair some things up. So let's see what we have. My current function, g of x, negative 2x squared minus 10x minus 11. Okay, so I'm going to take this function and I'm going to factor out, I'm going to separate out the negative 11. It's going to be over here by itself for a little bit. And I'm going to focus just in on these first two terms. And then I'm going to factor out the negative 2x squared minus 10x, the negative 2 coefficient. I'm going to factor that out. So let's factor a negative 2 out of the front. That's going to leave me with an x squared, and then negative 10, I factored out a negative 2, so I'm going to have a plus 5x. And then I'm going to have to add something in here to make this piece a perfect square. Okay, and then I also have this minus 11 on the end. And if I'm going to add something inside the parentheses, then I need to subtract something outside the parentheses. So I need to pay attention to what that thing is going to be. Okay, so how do we decide what that thing is? Well, inside these parentheses, I need this to form a perfect square so that I can factor it. And in order to do that, what we do is we take our b term, which is 5, and we divide it by 2, and then we square it, and that's what goes inside our blank here. So b over 2 squared is going to be 25 fourths. 25 fourths is what goes inside my blank. Okay, so then because I put 25 fourths inside here, something needs to go over here by the negative 11 to balance out the work that I just did. So it's not going to be 25 fourths. And why is that? Well, that's because I have this negative 2 up here that's currently being multiplied times 25 fourths. So it's not really 25 fourths that I've added in, it's negative 2 times 25 fourths. So what I need to put over here is negative 2 times 25 fourths. That's what was truly added to the equation to begin with. So over here I'm going to add in a negative 2 times 25 fourths. And then let's see if we can simplify all of this. So inside the parentheses, that should factor. That's the goal of this. The standard form should let that factor down. So if that factors, what it's going to factor into, I'm going to still have the negative 2 out front, and then it's going to factor into x plus, and the thing that goes inside here, oh, really quick, the plus sign comes from the fact that that's a plus sign. But the thing that's going to go inside here is whatever was in parentheses that we squared in order to put inside our big parentheses. So because I have a 5 halves right here, 5 halves is what goes inside my factored form, and then that whole thing is going to be squared. Okay, so when I was trying to get to this piece earlier, I took my middle term and I divided it by 2. To plug it into the parentheses, I had to square it. To plug it down here into my factored form, I'm just going to have the 5 halves. All right, so I have negative 2 times x plus 5 halves squared, and then what's going on over here? So I have minus 11 and then minus negative 2 times 25 fourths. So that's going to become plus, and then 2 times 25 fourths is 50 fourths, which is 25 halves. Okay, so really what I have is negative 11 plus 25 halves. Okay, how many halves do I have here? That's negative 11, which is negative 22 halves, plus 25 halves. Okay, negative 22 halves plus 25 halves, if I combine those, what I'm going to be left with is negative 2 times x plus 5 halves squared, and then plus 3 halves. That's the standard form of that g of x function. Okay, so where is our vertex going to be? What happened to this original graph? So this inside the parentheses tells us that we went left 5 halves. On the outside we went plus 3 halves. That's going to be up 3 halves, which means that the vertex of this function is at the point we went left 5 halves and up 3 halves. That means our vertex is at negative 5 halves comma 3 halves. Is that vertex going to be a maximum or a minimum? How do we decide that? Well, we look back at our original function. It's a quadratic. It has a negative out front, which means it's facing downward, which means the vertex of that graph is going to be the top point. So this is a maximum. And then question number 3 is, what's the axis of symmetry? So the axis of symmetry is that vertical line that comes straight down the middle of our parabola. It cuts through the vertex. And remember, vertical lines are x equals some number, and it's going to cut through the vertex. So our axis of symmetry is going to be x equals -5/2.